as the title says, I just want to know what some people feel and think about being misunderstood. So I'm just waking up. I had an early nap, but my naps obviously they never get in the way of my priorities and my goals, which y'all that I genuinely care to know that I have a lot of that going on. So I caught a cold and I decided to just turn my phone off for a day, so I can regroup, recuperate. Um, and yeah, this morning when I got up, us empaths in general, let me just start there. I don't think the world has ever been a comfortable place for us, whether it was in Stone Age days or as just, oh my God, chaotic. And I feel like the world is in an uprooting process, because of the age of Aquarius, which is, somewhat liberating, but at the same time, there's just so many more people, if you ask me, that are like fighting, like they're resisting the evolution of humanity. What triggered this question this morning? Obviously, I haven't been planning to go on my YouTube channel, but journaling, I journal. I'm actually going to journal again in a minute. Because it's like confirmation to yourself about what you feel inside without keeping all of that in your mental space. Being able to offset that energy, clear out that energy, storage it somewhere else so that your mind can actually focus on the things that you need to focus on all day, every day. So that's why I think journaling, I've been doing it. I just scrolled across a page that I actually did on the second. So being misunderstood, I was in the shower and, you know, like I was saying a few seconds ago about empaths and this world never being comfortable for us. We're sensitive to um, people's opinions, and not even that really, people's energy, people's perceptions, especially when it comes to us. And then when you add being a water sign on top of that, it's just like, oh my God, and I feel like justice for water signs, high vibrational water signs that a lot of people seem to learn from, a lot of people look up towards, even if they, click up together and try to bully that water sign individually. It's already been a proven fact that a lot of them individually look to that person for strength or guidance or what have you, but then they group together, you know, because society has made it normalized to group together and to single this person out or to pick with them and all this other weird shit. Well, upon me just maturing and evolving, what I've realized is that the reason why a lot of these people, these unevolved souls, seem to do that is because the base factor of that is that that person a lot of times is misunderstood. How many of you guys have been in a situation or experienced a situation, should I say, where you notice somebody being highly judged? We're not going to say, bullied. We're not going to say abused. We're just going to say highly criticized, right? When I say highly, I mean a lot of people. I mean, not just, a bunch of people criticize this person on Monday and then you don't hear from people doing that no more. Like things go back to normal. That person has their privacy. And then maybe 5 months from now it happens again or 5 weeks or something. But every day, every time you look up, you know, um, how many people have experienced watching somebody be highly criticized and then you yourself, you start to, especially if you're not really tapped into your intuition, your crown chakra is blocked, third eye chakra is blocked. Um, you yourself get pulled into the criticism. Even if you're not verbally saying something, you're believing it, you're maybe participating in it. I've been on for 5 minutes, so this is not going to be a long video, but and then a little time goes by, or maybe things blow up, maybe things come to um a negative place, and as things blow up, or let's go with the first point of view. um a little bit of time goes by, and you maybe see this person in a different environment. Maybe things change in their life. Maybe they go from living with their mother who struggled with drug addiction to their grandmother in another state. And then you come across this. I'm just follow me here now, because I can't be the only one that has not only been through it, but experienced, or should I say, witnessed this with other people, other souls on this planet, right? And it's going to all go back to being misunderstood, and how that can really, really be detrimental sometimes, which is why I put the title, Is It a Blessing or Is It a Curse? Right. And I'm going to also touch on a few other areas that are more personal to me, just because I need this time and space to not only help other humans evolve, and not feel alone when it comes to, really complicated topics and situations like this, but also to not hold this stuff inside of me, because that's not healthy at all. And I encourage anybody else that does. We can all learn from each other, as we're here going through this experience, this earthly experience right now, to also, do the same thing, which you guys that have been doing it, that if you're a channel of substance, I watch it. I watch your channel. I listen to I have my own perspectives. I weigh out different things, and I make my own judgment. And then some of you guys, maybe I just haven't, came across your channels yet. So we hope that the universe makes that happen, because I always like to at least connect online with like-minded people, or people that are dealing with circumstances, spiritual circumstances that are not always the easiest, because of my appreciation for souls that obviously chose to go through a little bit more harder things, or your soul is just evolving to the point where it was necessary for you to, for the experience, for the growth that it will bring you. So let's say it's a scenario where that person was being perceived in a certain light, because okay, um their circumstances, they're under the care of a parent that's struggling with addiction. And so this parent probably doesn't have many rules. Maybe there's some things going on in the home where that child doesn't want to be there. So they kind of stay out a little bit later than the other people, the other teenagers, kids, whatever, minors are able to. And they get themselves caught up, being around, hanging around people they probably shouldn't, maybe even dealing with things that they shouldn't, maybe fighting, arguing, maybe these kids steal, whatever the case may be. And because they're being highly criticized at the time by so many different people, a lot of times I do also notice this comes from jealousy and just envy or whatever, because what you feel is normally real. So my thing is, a lot of times people will say one thing, but they feel something else, which is why they say things that they say, because of what they're really feeling. And a lot of times people don't know how, they don't have emotional intelligence to work through what they're feeling the most, appropriate way or respectful way for themselves and others around them. So that's just the world we live in. We don't live in a perfect world. So my thing is, a lot of times how you can tell, okay, just because I'm a thorough person, how you can tell if a person is being highly criticized, observed, or what have you, due to one of those type of reasons I just named, the envy and jealousy and things like that, is the things that they're being criticized about, or the things that are being said. It can be said about other people, but they just don't want to. You can say those same things about little man that stays in the neighborhood, and he's got caught stealing with his brothers and things like that, and he's always in fights or arguments or hanging with people that are, you don't say anything. You embrace this person, but because you feel and you can tell that this person really, you know um something, and see, that's where it goes a little deeper, and I'm not going to touch on to that in this particular video. But because when you say that, people that again are not emotionally intelligent when you say things like that person could don't belong in that neighborhood. A lot of people's mental depth, it doesn't have enough depth to it. It doesn't have enough, it doesn't go deep enough. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, how dare you? So what, you think that person better than us? They don't have emotional intelligence to just accept that sometimes people are only at a season, in a stage, in a phase, at a place, in a relationship, going through something temporarily. Maybe it's a curse. Maybe, the whole thing. And a lot of people, they're just not emotionally intelligent or mature to accept this. So they'll feel that way. But then clearly, because what they're feeling is telling them that, you know, this person is out of place. All we do is sit on our porches and drink and talk about people. And this person would rather read a book, or, they're only hanging with that group because, both of their parents know each other. And, maybe both of the parents do drugs and get high together or whatever. But I see and I feel something different in this person. A lot of times people will feel that way and they still will, kind of try to ignore what they're feeling and just project a bunch of other energies because clearly, you guys are not the same. You don't really have anything for real in common besides the job that you're working at together, or the neighborhood that you live in together, or the school that you see each other at every day. So you see this person in a completely different circumstance. Maybe, the mother loses custody, and they all have to move and leave that state and go stay with the grandmother, which the grandmother is a lot more stable. She doesn't drink or smoke. Her house rules are much different. And you come across this, I just really want people to jog their memory and think about, have you ever been in situations, experienced yourself these situations, or witnessed it? And now that that person is in a different, completely different circumstance, a different neighborhood, a different state, okay, they're not allowed to just roam all night and do whatever they did when they were in the other situation. You see them able to be a little bit more of who they are. Maybe they're in school now, actually being able to be a part of certain programs. They're getting certain certificates. You know what I'm saying? And so all of that highly criticism, the things that were being said, you as an individual coming across them now, 2 or 3 years later, you're like, I really feel like we misjudged this person. This person was misunderstood. And now that time has went by and you're able to see things from a different perspective, maybe not even being so selfish and able to put yourself in that person's situation and ask, how would you feel? How would you, if you were actually that person, how would you carry yourself in that situation? And then you're able to look at the people that were doing the criticizing, and see the situation for what it is and make a mature decision about this person's character, a proper decision about this person's character, to where you go, pretty much all the stuff that I just said. Maybe that person was just hanging with LaQuisha and Sonia and all of those people because, peer pressure, because, both of their parents got high together. Or, maybe that wasn't this person. Maybe they didn't want to kiss that little boy that night. Maybe it's just the environment, the people that were hanging around, you know. And so you're able to just kind of sometimes, I don't want to just be too blunt and step on nobody's toes, but it's like, have you ever felt like it's just y'all just ignorant, y'all just ratchet, y'all just hateful as fuck, and y'all always judging people? Y'all need to mind y'all business. That's probably how that person in that particular, position, the one that's, coming across the person's profile or life a few years later, that's it's a completely different scenario. And they don't have to deal with that type of energetic, negativity, the stalking, the watching, the obsessing, the criticizing. And I want to insert my own personal life in there. Um, Not only just one of the manifestation techniques that I've been advised to do by my spirit guides and ancestors, which is to vibrate at the level and the frequency of, what I want to experience. That can be extremely hard when people know that's what you're trying to do. You really don't have any privacy. So it's not like, writing everything down and just being a statue, like I said, is going to change anything, because you're still having projections placed on you based off shit that's being said on TV, music that you're listening to, things that a person that you roommate with or that's around you, or people in the store walking by. Like, That's not going to do anything. But even if I were to put myself in that situation and say, well, if I had the financial freedom to be able to go to another state, just drop everything and go to another state, make sure I can choose the best gated neighborhood where it seems like people just would not behave that way. And even if they did, my financial situation has changed to the point where I can afford to, keep up on my health, keep up on my vitality, enough to be able to invest in things that will have me in a space to where not only is it obviously a better environment, better type of people, but now I can invest energetically into just activities and things like that that will kind of distract me a little bit from, you know, that type of quality of people. Now, when your options are low, we're still using my situation where you have to settle for McDonald's. You have to settle for, Family Dollar in the hood, working there, obviously the quality of people there, the things that they're dealing with that they're in their life and things like that. Which again, this is not to excuse these people's behaviors, because remember, I'm in the same situation as them and I'm not treating people like shit. I'm not criticizing people. I'm not even worried about what people have going on in their lives to bring them down, to speak on it and to try to block and cover up anything good about them. These people, what I've noticed a lot of times, they will quickly point out all your flaws, everything negative that they can say and think of, and they will only, put that in the spotlight. They will only pick at that. Anything good, anything positive, anything good that you've done for other people, it's like it never happened. And so this is exactly why, and this is not to say be that way in a toxic manner, but this is exactly why the saying good girls finish last exists, right? And that's simply meaning you have to put yourself first in a way to where you're not an idiot when it comes to the society and the ugly world we live in. You don't let your intelligence just waste away. Also, meaning, well, we realize that just because you guys are all somewhat dealing with the same struggles, that you don't go out your way to pick on people. You don't go out your way, but we're not ignorant and dumb to the society that we live in. So when people feel like you have what it takes to make it out of that scenario a little bit quicker than them, which I'm not really in a mentoring mood right now, but I will just a tiny bit sprinkled on top of that's not even a fact. Because if you want something, if you work for something, if you believe in it, if you believe in yourself, it doesn't matter what the next person has going on for them that makes you feel like they have what it takes to get out just a little quicker. So let's all band together and try to make it impossible. Let's all band together and try to keep this person down. You understand what I'm saying? Because quickly what you'll learn is that person that everybody wants to band together to try to keep stuck, to try to keep stagnant, to try to make it as hard as possible for you to have a friend, have a support system, have a fan base, have whatever it is that you feel like will aid this person into success or coming out of the ugliness with you guys. They'll still make it out because of the same reasons that you could have as well. Spiritual belief, faith, consistency with those areas, with spirituality and faith, keeping their vibration high, believing in themselves no matter what people say or do, as well as just trying to keep their frequency balanced and matched to what it is that they want to experience, the life that they want to experience, no matter what. You can't be in all of those energies and banding together with other people to try to keep someone stuck and back. And a lot of times what people don't realize is it feels good because what you're doing is so wrong, and that's just all too deep for me to go into on this video. Um, you're taken from that person, and that's something that's not their choice, where like they can do anything about it. You're ultimately taken from that person, and that's that you're gonna have to pay for that, whether it's just you live a real long time and it's awful, up into your 70s and 80s. You end up in a nursing home where these kids are treating you awful and you wish you would have died like such and such mom or grandmom in their 50s with all of their family around them and loving them, and a proper burial and things like that. So that karma can catch up with you in so many different ways. And, again, I want to go back on that question, since I've used several different talking points and examples for people to, really use their muscles and their mind, and really see what I'm painting here. Is being misunderstood a blessing or a curse? I feel like different circumstances. Now, it can be a blessing in a situation where a person doesn't know, um, your negative mistakes that you've made in the past, you know, where all they see is, the evolution, the transformation, the growth. Um, so therefore they can't like prejudge you. They can't judge you off of previous, you know, struggles and hardships that you've had, right? I guess in that, we all have different brains and different perspectives. I guess in a scenario like that, being misunderstood is a blessing, actually. Um, like I said, I just got out the shower, so I'm about to also go in here and make some cookies because my children's father really likes them, like I said. And I have a vlog where I made some before, and the texture, everything, the taste, the sugar, everything is about like Subway. If you like Subway cookies, where they're kind of like thin, they're not too, chunky or whatever, and they're really good. That's one thing I've noticed with everything I do. I try to get it how I like it. I don't settle for just, this is the way that it says to do it. If I like it, then, that's what sticks. And so, yeah, I'll be multitasking on here, but I really truly didn't want to be on here too long. But I just, I know sometimes people don't always see the live because I'm not live all day, every day on my YouTube channel. But when people do, they always interact and comment, and so I appreciate that, especially people that are, um, in that community of people that, are going through what they're going through with the government and stuff. So I guess in that scenario, it can seem like, obviously a curse. Um, but in a scenario where you're dealing with being misunderstood and you don't have your privacy, people, that's why the word delusion went so big. I've never heard people use the word delusional so much in my entire life. I feel like a lot of times people have been using the term delusional simply because they realize that that's what's going on. A lot of people out here swear that things are one way when it's just that's not what's going on. That's not the case. And for me, I've realized that, a lot of the people that highly criticize me, judge me, attack me, they're very delusional. Example, which is sad if you really have a mind that's clear to look at things for what it is. I could be, watching a movie, right? I could just be watching a typical Lifetime movie or something, and clearly, what does that movie have to do with my personal life, right? This is why I say they're delusional, because a healthy mental, a mind and healthy mental health would never go immediately. That's why I say the age of this spirituality stuff and everybody talking about confirmation, this confirmation, that people doing tarot readings and stuff like that. Even when you watch these what do you want to call it? Even when you watch these collective readings, or general, which general means, it doesn't necessarily always mean a category. It just means that it's not a personal reading. So it's not personal towards you, which is why a lot of experienced tarot readers will say, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. And I myself used to kind of like clear my throat or slam something or make that noise, knowing I don't have privacy. A couple of years ago, I used to do that a lot because I kind of got sick and tired of the projections, where people would try to make everything that I'm watching, especially if they get to like, Scorpio, if they're doing like all signs and they get to Scorpio, it's like What would this is not a personal reading. And even let's even go a step further and show you um stop. Okay, you guys, my alarm went off. How bad spirituality has kind of fucked up society when people don't know what they're doing or they're not taking the proper steps to cleanse their energy, to cleanse out their mind. Spirituality is not something just any old filthy, dirty minded spiritual, they don't believe in spirituality. It's not for you to just jump in willy nilly and start believing that whatever your mind is telling you is that's a fact. And that's what we have a lot of going on, especially in the black community, but just the humanity of all races right now. And so if you look at that point, how people will automatically believe, even when we're going into tarot, that oh, this is a sign. I was dating a Gemini or a Taurus or whatever sign, right? That's a sign that what they're saying. Whole time this person has moved out the state. They don't got married. They don't think about you. It has nothing to do with you, on top of the fact that there's millions and millions and billions and trillions of people that is that goddamn sign. So this is just like I'm touching on the root of where this delusion I feel, because it was not like this in the 90s. It was not like this in the early 2000s. Even in fact, there wasn't even people online like that doing tarot. The psychics exist. Yeah. Did they have people? They were more so people doing it from their home where they had like a sign in the window. And, I even remember in Georgia and Atlanta, there were, people downtown back in the day. They used to have like wasn't a lot of them, but I do remember a few people that would be, having their little setup with their table and their chair, and they would be doing tarot readings. But that's when, I'm just showing you how the evolution of ignorance, and it's still here on this planet right now, where people would walk by like, that's they voodoo shit. What the fuck does being a psychic, being intuitive, what the fuck does that have to do with voodoo? Oh, okay. So yeah, people would be like, that's that voodoo shit. Because the lady would probably have her head wrapped and some incense or some shit like that burning, have her cards and stuff. And she was misunderstood. So anyway, and then, I would be with people and we would be down there and I would be walking past the lady and I would just get this vibe, like this really inviting, really, purified, just really warm energy from the woman. And I would be like, I don't feel like that's the devil. I don't feel like that's voodoo. I don't feel like it has anything to do with the devil. And me just being so, empathic and understanding of humans and not so overly critical or judgmental of them, I myself would be in this energy to where I'm like, I don't know what voodoo is, honestly, but I don't feel like it's bad even at 10 years old, because we used to go down there when I was young all the time. And so, yeah, I just, I've been thinking about a lot of this stuff, and I just have been just like over it, y'all. This is clearly I'm over it. That's why I don't be around people. That's exactly why I don't be around people. And so, I just wanted to hit y'all with that so you could see how long the ignorance has been going on, where it's like, what does voodoo and what does the devil have to do with being a psychic, being intuitive? And when you're surrounded around ignorance, that can ultimately hurt you, because I was surrounded around women, or people in general that felt this way, that felt like Jesus was the end all be all. And that they were just so holier than thou and so safe to just judge everybody else when you haven't lived enough to be able to relate or understand someone else's perspective. So yeah, I feel like honestly in a situation like mine where you don't have any privacy, I truly believe that, the misunderstanding can definitely be, a serious situation to your psychological. Now, if you're protected enough, it's not gonna get too out of hand where like the people that are surveillance you and lack you to have privacy, which I have a past where it did get out of hand like that. But it's not gonna get to the point where, gotta put my phone on the charger, 20%. It's not going to get to the point where, your whole world just comes crumbling down because a bunch of sick, miserable people are watching everything. And anything you try to do, we're going to attack that together. I don't feel like it'll necessarily get to that point. When you're staying on top of cleansing your energy, protecting yourself. But just like that example I was using, I'm gonna go ahead and hop off of here because I want to, focus what I'm doing, with the cookies, and also do my journaling and stuff for the morning. But I deal with it all day long, y'all. Like stuff that has literally nothing to do with what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking. Um, and you can tell, you know, there's been plenty of times, every day, all day, where I hear things, and this is where just being psychic and intuitive plays a role. Um, and my intuition and my psychic gifts are confirmed daily, meaning like I could drop something, right? And if I cough, you guys excuse me, I'm spraying my body sprays and stuff. I could drop something, and I might not see it in one direction where I thought where I thought it could have been, but then my intuition would be telling me, well, it sounded like, or because you don't see it over here, it must be over there. That's just a small ass example of how my intuition is confirmed every day. And so it's not like, when you're intuitive, you're not picking up on what's actually happening. You're not picking up on people's intentions. So I put that out there because sometimes people will gaslight you, like, so you think every time you hear a car alarm or a door's closed, that's about you. Well, my argument in that, I could have been a lawyer. My argument in that is, why does it seem like I don't hear this type of stuff? Why can't I ever hear? Let me just reword that. Why can't I ever hear a car door slam, a door slam, a house door slam really hard, or a car, you know, rev their engine by when something positive is said? If there's a commercial on that says, um, ready to be a homeowner, da 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 da, ready to go on vacation, da da da. Anything positive, it doesn't even have to be about me or necessarily directed towards me. How come anytime something positive is said, I don't just randomly, because it's just somebody getting out of their car and closing the door, just somebody deciding to rev their engine by? If it's not a coincidence, I mean, if it is just a coincidence, which we know that those don't really exist in such a controlled society. Um, if it's just a coincidence, how come how come I don't hear anything then? You understand? Which I know some people already know because you're on the side with the bad guys. So you already know, you get what I'm saying? But for the people that think that they're driving me crazy or stressing me out or anything, no, that's not what's happening. In fact, they know that that's not the case because I sleep well, to say the least. Um, but how come it's not just sirens, police sirens, because the TV said, you're very beautiful. You know that it's never too late to go back to school. God loves you. Anything positive. And I've said this and I've said this and I've said this, and I'm still not expecting them to ever just change and do anything different, because you can't expect trash to become a garden, right? I don't expect them to grow. But what I'm saying is, for that's why I don't vent to people, just everyday people that I think I can, because honestly, I don't blame them for. I mean, I don't feel like you should gaslight a person. Now, that's just ignorant. If if anything, I would say the realest person I've come across with how they handle it would be my little sister, who has several degrees and all this stuff from college, and I'm always reminded by her that she's not doing anything that I can't do, you know. It's just we have two completely different circumstances, so much so it's kind of sensitive that she was just like, okay, I love you, sis. I gotta go. Cause she already knows what I'm dealing with. You understand what I'm saying? But anyway, like we all played school growing up, line the teddy bears up against the damn, the wall, and okay, class today. That was really it was my favorite thing to do growing up. And then I kind of got my little sister and my, best friends at the time that I would see every day. Um, I got them hooked into wanting to do it every day, all day. That was just our number one game. That and America's Next Top Model. That's what we used to play. You know, every day, all day. My mom, when she was around me, she always had to bring it up. Remember when y'all used to be playing America's Next Top Model, and one of y'all had a paper in y'all hand and say who made it on to the next level and who didn't, and all this other stuff like that, and y'all would have y'all little. So a lot of this stuff, psychiatry, they've proven that a lot of things that step in you, as long as you do the work to make sure like adult trauma doesn't linger too much. I feel like childhood goals, dreams, and habits. That's the word. A lot of times when you're in a positive state, they'll come back because that's your soul. That's you remembering who you are, regardless of anything people are saying or projecting onto you. That's healthy. That's healthy for you to because think about it. When you're in your childhood, that's your most innocent. That's before the world has touched you really. That's before society has tried to put you in a box or categorize you off your mistakes or your shortcomings or anything that you're lacking. That's when you are the most pure. So that's a lot of times who you truly are. You understand? It wasn't forced on me. My mom didn't say, "Hey, go watch the Tyra Banks on America's Next Top Model" was on. No, that's something that we watched and something that we couldn't wait, to put our little things together in the house and put on some heels and stuff like that, and then choose who gets to, and it was just fun to us, and as well as school. Okay, so and making up dances and performing them for our family and making them, even though we would have to drag them to do it sometimes. They're like, "Oh, I'm trying to cook dinner. I don't have time for this." Eventually they would get to a space where they would sit down and we would put the song on and we would perform it. That would be our whole point of working so hard on the eight counts and on the dance routine is the end goal, which is to perform it for our families. So anyway, when I think about these things, y'all, it's just me not having any privacy. Going back to that, and we living in a time where people have went fucking confirmation crazy. Bitch, everything is not a fucking Let me tell you a secret for people that think that way when there's surveillance in my life. My spirits already know how much I hate this and how big of an injustice it truly is, which is why when I do win, y'all ain't gonna see that either. When this is truly closing out, I've learned my soul has evolved all it needed to. There's nothing else to learn from going through this. Do you really think y'all are going to know that? No, you're still going to be getting confusion thrown at you. You're still going to be confused about the situation, even as I'm climbing up. Do you really think that the Most High God is going to allow whoever is in control to just tell you, all right, y'all, this is it? No more of what used to go on in the past. So much so that we just gonna keep creating illusions and confusion to make you think so. Even though you can clearly see it if you're not blind or just plain stupid. Which that's another thing God has been showing me. A lot of these people are. They really are slow. Or they're just, like I said earlier, delusional. They're very, very, very delusional because of you know, you know this to be true, but you know how people, especially a lot of older women, they're like old school, old fashioned when it comes to tarot cards, spirituality. Back in the day, people used to warn people, not necessarily because they felt like spirituality was evil and to drive you crazy, but for shit like this, where sometimes if your intentions are not pure or you fuck with the wrong person, those spirits will drive you crazy. And if y'all don't know my history and my past, I'm again, that's another book I'm working on when it comes to, and it's so many books that's gonna have to be for that one. But I do have some of it written. in a couple composition books about what I went through in my life. With people were intentionally, okay, um, down to the point where they were doing rituals when I was a child. They were literally doing rituals when I was a child to drive me crazy. Um, Here's an example, and this is actually on record on this page. It's on video on this page where I'm literally doing a reading and exposing it because it's a memory on my children's heart. It's literally a memory that I have of I grew up in a city called College Park for years. From we're just gonna say, I mean, obviously before 5, my mom lived other places like East Point and stuff like that. But I want to say from the age of like 4 or 5 years old, pre-K, head start, kindergarten age, up until 11, and then we moved a few other places. We stayed like in Decatur and stuff like that. And then by the age of 12, by the age of 12ish, 13, we were back in College Park. It just was a different city, a different county, excuse me. And we stayed there until I was about 13ish, 14ish. And then my mom ultimately had lost custody around that time, I believe. A lot of my childhood is kind of scattered. It's like so much that happened. Yeah, she was moving a lot because middle school, I remember I did like a not even a full year at this school called MD Roberts. That was like um I don't even know what city, Morrow, that was like Mount Zion. And um then I did a little bit of middle school in College Park at North Clayton, because I was trying to figure out how I ever experienced ninth grade at North Clayton High School. Okay, so I would say I was about 14 then. Yeah, that sounds right. Ninth grade, 14 when she lost us, and um, I moved to Henry County. So that's what I'm saying. Most of my childhood from the age of 5 to 14 was in College Park. It really wasn't in any other city. It wasn't in the city of Atlanta or Decatur or anything like that. It was all in College Park. And so during that time, what I noticed was um, she did the best she could. So I'm not gonna dig too much into it. She definitely did the best that she could. Um, but I just want to say all of that to say that people are this spiritual stuff, man. Like, oh, that's what I was saying, y'all. That's what I was saying, okay? Because I was trying to figure out why I even went to childhood. Okay, so before the second portion of College Park that we lived in, my mom would go, maybe she didn't feel like cooking, so she would go get us Chinese, or she would go to churches and get, 5, 6, 7 biscuits and a big box of, drumsticks or chicken or whatever, and then she probably would make sides at home or something. I don't know, but it wasn't all the time because she didn't have a problem, cooking or whatever. But when we did go out, whether it was to go to Kroger's to get some things, or for her to get a just whatever we errands that we needed to run, that portion of College Park where we lived, which was Old National, um it was always busy, unless it was like 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, three, even them hours, depending on what clubs were open or whatever. And so I remember being it would be like daytime, like 4 or 5 in the afternoon, 3 in the afternoon. And many times, you guys, there would be a woman, an older woman, like, early 50s, late 40s, early 50s at least, I feel. And she would have a bullhorn and she would be standing on a corner screaming. And every now and then you would hear her say something about Jesus or that people were going to hell. But something in me, and I don't feel like my intuition just got turned on when I became an adult. No, that's something you born with. My intuition would just be drawn towards her, and I would just feel something that I didn't know what I was feeling in. I was a kid. Anywho, throughout life from that age. Like I said, it happened a lot back then. But as I grew older, it's like something would have to, reinstate that energy around me. So a certain school, there might be a person that has to be in the classroom with us that's acting like that. I just the memories, and I would feel something. My intuition, I would feel something, like I would kind of pay attention. God, my spirit guides, ancestors would have me really pay attention to that person. Like, and I would be like, why does that person talk to themselves? Like, are they really crazy? Like, what's going on? And then it might be like a couple of like the popular dudes, maybe they play football or basketball, something like that. And, they might be like hella mean towards them, right? Like shove them out the way, or they might get into an argument at the pencil sharpener. Man, hurry the fuck up! Like, and I would think to myself, why is such and such being so mean to them? They're slow or they're crazy. They talk to themselves, right? And even if I would say something, like that person almost would give me a look like almost like they were trying to say that bitch nigga or that person ain't, but or that female that's acting like they're not crazy, right? But they couldn't say nothing, And I'm telling you guys, I have done so many readings on my childhood and things like that, and I just was amazed, like wow, at the clarity that was coming out and just what the kids were feeling, or I guess some people might feel like high school, middle school isn't a kid. It's all minors. They would just feel like jealousy always would come out, injustice, government, dirty, filthy, the same energies. And do you think I was talking? I never have been talking to myself. I've always been venting or responding to the lack of privacy that I've dealt with. This is a fact. Never, ever, ever. Just like never, ever have I ever been a whore. And I went on a rant the other night, exposing and talking about that because that is my truth and my hand to God. That's the truth. Have I been taken advantage of? Have people felt like, who gonna stop me? Who gonna check me? What brother gonna pull up on me? What dad is gonna, But I've never been somebody that likes to sleep with multiple people, whether for money or for free. That's just not who the fuck I am. I am somebody who has always enjoyed singing, creating art, things like that. And so anyway, never have I ever sat up and just talked to myself. I've always been venting again or ranting about and technically towards my lack of privacy. And where this particular attack came from, I've kind of got like 50-50 answers when I do my readings. Um, so I don't know if somebody was trying to cover up the truth or whatever, but it pretty much was just saying like um some sort of envy, some sort of, people looking into your destiny and shit, had people already trying to put that energy around you. Like, why did there need to be somebody like that at certain jobs you work at, or classrooms in school? Or if you, here's another place that it would happen a lot. If I were to go to the doctor or the dentist office, the waiting room, 48 minutes, the waiting room, there would always have to be somebody like that. And I'm telling y'all, my intuition be like, this person, like something in me, even though my crown chakra and third eye chakra really wasn't all the way open like that, something deep in me was like, they're pretending. And I'm just stating these facts that live with me, that I think about every day while dealing with this, or even when I have come in contact with certain people that have said evil stuff, like, try to make it seem like that what I deal with is going on when that's not what's going on, and they know it, but they're envious. Like they know the whole plot. Bang on the wall, knock on the wall. Maybe they've even participated, but now that we're in a new environment, like, we're somewhere else or whatever, and maybe me and this person have words, or maybe they wanted to have words just to say that because they're jealous or some shit. Um, you know, it's like it's sick. It's sick, but I know eventually one day God is gonna force um God is just gonna compensate me for all of this abuse that I've been through, and I ain't got nothing for nobody. And I'm not saying that to be mean or anything, but it just is what it is. And I don't mind proving my enemies wrong when it comes to the fact that I have good karma, wherever and however it comes to me. But no, I have absolutely nothing to give anybody after having to go through this because there was just way too many people involved. I'm not out here thirsty for friends. You ain't got to motherfucking like me because my story is the truth and what I went through. So yeah, since young, y'all, they have had these people around me talking to themselves. Oh, thank you, Spirit. I don't know who grew up with me in the same apartment complex, but thank you for this memory. There was this guy, he was attractive, but I was never really a whore or fast, so I didn't look at him like that because he was just way too damn old for me to look at him like that. His name was fuck it, I'm gonna keep it all the way real because everything in this video was allegedly. Everything is for entertainment purposes only. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. But when I grew up in this neighborhood, there was this guy named Juju, right? Follow me, follow me. There was a dude named Juju. He used to hustle. He didn't really work a regular 9 to 5. It wasn't given like schoolboy, none of that. But he was really low key and he was respected, right? His mom, which I remember seeing her come and go, she might have groceries in her hand or just be getting off work or going to work. I don't remember. It was forever ago. And they lived in the same apartment building as one of my childhood best friends that I called like a sister growing up. Either I was always at her house or she always was at my house. We spent the night over each other's house all the time. And this woman never hung out. Excuse me, y'all, the babe. This woman never really like, they don't want me to get this out. Oh, well. Because something has been going on for a long time. And if people knew a lot of facts to somebody's life, not only would they be ashamed for judging them or attacking them, but they wouldn't do it at all. When you get to how deep the fucking rabbit hole of what somebody is dealing with goes. So anyway, this woman, like I said, she if you ask me, she carried herself extremely classy. She was never around, never bothering nobody, nothing like that. And her son was Juju, which I just told you how laid back and stuff he was as well. So anyway, there was a time that came that rolled around eventually the neighborhood where the word around was that Juju's mom went crazy, right? And it was like spooky because not only were people talking about it, but some of us kids, we would, because her apartment was literally behind. So those apartment buildings where it's like different floors, like 2 or 3 floors. You got the bottom floor, the middle, the first floor, the middle floor, and then the floor above them. And then when you go on each floor, there's like 4 apartments. So there's 2 apartments, one on the left, one on the right, facing each other. And then you go down the hallway a little bit, and it's 2 more. It was like made like that. And so my best friend's apartment, whose house I used to be at all the time, hers was like the first one to the left when you come inside the building. Behind them on the same side on the left was Juju and his mom's apartment. So I remember sometimes we would just, if it was too quiet outside or whatever, I mean, to say the least, there would just be times we like, let's go see if she's in there going crazy. And we will walk through the hallway and just stand outside her apartment door, and eventually we'll start hearing her like, "And I don't give a fuck what you saying, nigga." Like she would just be screaming, and like nobody would be in there. And we would there were times where, because this scarred me as a kid, there would be times where I remember going over there, or maybe my best friend would be like, let me show you what she did. And we would go, and on the outside of her apartment door, there was like eggshells, there was like egg yolk, applesauce, cookies, ketchup. There was like all of this stuff on. I was 10 at the time, 10. So don't, like I said, I know I'm dealing with a lot of mentally ill people because of the spiritual stuff. Everybody's doing tarot and shit, and people don't know how to clean their mind out and discern truth from fact, from fiction and facts and stuff like that, and see what's what and what's not. Because some people, what that's what you. No, no, no. I was 10. I was 10 years old when this happened. So there was like mustard, ketchup, applesauce, eggs. Not like an egg cleanse or anything like that, which is, in the Mexican community, they call that like a I can't think of the name right now, but there's a name for it, right? It's like a Mexican thing that people they call it a sweep, but there's an actual Mexican name, that was Spanish, excuse me. You pronounce it in Spanish. And a lot of people do that. A lot. Okay. But anyway, because like I said, I'm showing you how delusional, like how mentally ill, the whole spiritual movement has fucked people up when it comes to discerning what's true, what's not, what has something to do with a person, what does or doesn't have something to do with a person, or whatever, or what they're talking about or what they went through. And so when I would see that, or when you just hear her and they would be like, there she go, y'all, she doing it again. We might just be hanging out in the hallway or maybe be outside the apartment building and we'll hear her and she might come on her porch and slam the door or something like that. And people will be like, there she go, she doing it, y'all. And then she'd be like, and I don't give a fuck, motherfucker. Y'all gonna leave me alone. Like she would just be going off, right? And I've spoken about this about a year, almost 2 years ago on this channel where I actually did a reading. So if y'all want, y'all can go check that out. I have like the red hair in my head or whatever. It's like a hotel background I'm in or whatever, and I actually did a reading on this. But yeah, but beyond or beside, apart from me seeing people, looking like they're talking to themselves every time me and my mom happen to go out places, which I'm not gonna speak too ill on her or whatever. It is what it is. The truth is what it is. But I feel like at this age and realizing how this world works and that there's no such thing as a coincidence, were you a part of it? Because why would you happen to pull up where you knew these people would be doing this? Or I can also argue that maybe those people just happen to know, to cover her innocence. Maybe they just knew she was going to that particular gas station or that particular store. Maybe she was telling certain people or people she thought were friends or whatever. Maybe the neighbors were eavesdropping. However, they used to surveillance people back then, and they just knew, okay, well, she says she's going to this check cashing place, so let's just have somebody post up there. I don't know. I'm not going that deep because I already know what I need to know overall about it happening. And so, again, I have such a beautiful, strong mind that never have I ever just really sat up and talked to myself and responded to myself and act like I see somebody that's not there. And this is my imaginary friend, Becca. Hi, Becca. Oh, yeah, you like my shoes? Me too. I believe that's the type of crazy they wanted me to be, not just, oh, I'm watching a TV show and they say, you need to get off your ass and get a job. And then the people up above me in the hotel above me or in the apartment above me, just all of a sudden, as soon as they say the TV says that, they start stomping on the floor. And they do this for hours and hours and hours and days to where I get to a point where I know I have no privacy and you're watching me. So I kind of respond a little bit and say things like, this is fucked up. This is wrong. Why do people feel the need to do this? Or I may do a reading a lot of times. That's what will cause it to seem like I'm talking to myself. I will be doing a fucking reading and I will be saying out loud what I'm saying in the reading. So it never went down how people wanted it to go down. But I just, I remember that. I remember that time. And yeah, you just have to ask yourself, like, which I've already done, why was that happening? Am I supposed to believe that's just a coincidence? And then as I get older and I wake up and I get, enlightened, I'll let Christian people or religious people scare me away from tarot, scare me away from spirituality. It actually saved my life. Um, I didn't wind up a statistic. I didn't wind up with, diseases or get on crack. It actually saved my life. I broke generational curses. But during that process of the beginning of it, um, I feel like I'm gonna just keep it all the way real, so I'll make this video much longer than it has to be. I feel like it was planned out. If this person ever tries to break these generational curses, and take back full control of their life and fight and not be afraid of voodoo, not be afraid of spirituality, da 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 da, we gonna pay people to follow this person around, intrude on their privacy, and that was supposed to restrict. That was supposed to tire my soul to the point where maybe if I just go to church, it's gonna stop. And do y'all know I tried that several times and it didn't stop? In fact, the envy and the hatred and the demons in these people was so strong, even in my most innocence, and where I would, go to people's church that they invited me into and stuff. Then the pastor and the comments and the shade, it still was going on. Everything. I guess I'm the only woman that has done sex work. I'm the only woman that has had kids out of wedlock. Like They would be looking at me and clearing their throat and constantly shifting in their seat and looking at me and shit. So trust me, I tried even the stuff that they were trying to make me believe that if I go that route, it'll stop, and so it's just it's an epic win for me because when I see people that are not only talking about it because they're dealing with it, they're going through it, they're recording their neighbors harassing them, they're recording being followed with one headlight, Target bags, and fire truck, EMS, ambulance, police harassing them, stalking them around the community. They're recording and saying how, they see people or they do readings and they see people trying to do rituals for them to lose their mind or that they had, I see it. And so all of it is just a beautiful thing to me. It lets me know that the Most High God was with me. He knows what the enemy's plan was. Um, and that's just it. That's just all. So back to the question, I'm answering it by saying I believe it can be both. I believe it can be a blessing and I believe it can also be a curse. And as of lately, I've been dealing with everything I do, people misunderstand it. And I pick up on it because of my intuition. So the next video, the next live I'll probably do, I'm gonna come back and just ask, is it a blessing or a curse to be intuitive, to be psychic? You know, because my intuition of knowing what people are thinking I'm feeling and me knowing that I'm not feeling that way, it's aggravating, y'all. It's so fucking irritating. It's so irritating. And I feel like now more than ever should people be embracing solitude and being alone so that they can hear their own thoughts, hear their own truth. Because this age, which rules intellect, it rules revolution debates, it rules, um, psychological growth. Um, Narcissistic people, or just which narcissistic people are really smart people, or these are people that know the truth. And I notice a lot of times what's happening lately is people will try to flip the narrative on you. So where a person, I'm gonna use a small example to where this is really sick and it's like it's a challenging thing to deal with. So say someone was trying to, I don't want to use that term. Everybody's using the term destiny swap. I don't want to use that as an example. Say somebody was trying to copy off of you, right? At one time. Maybe they were using means of spirituality, tarot cards, whatever, to just look into your destiny and see, because remember, we're all still living in the same society with the same rules as far as laws and, what you can do to survive and all of this other stuff. So it is a million different things you can do, but it's not, if that makes sense, right? So, say somebody that you don't even know exists in the world at the time knows you, lack of privacy. Um, they're like, what would this person be doing if they weren't dealing with this right now? How would they? Because I see all of this money and abundance showing up. I know that they do music. I know that they like to take pictures. I know that they're a good writer. Da da da. All this other stuff. What would they be doing? Would they be stripping? Would they be, selling clothes? Like, what would they be doing? And they see whatever they see and they go, oh, okay, let me tap into that, right? Because let's not act like we don't live in some real shisty times. And they do that and it takes off. They get a lot of, exposure from it. They get a lot of money from it. It's just an example. And this person sees you taking your power back, you're spiritual, you're not as reactive, even though they've made a lot of different material speaking on pretty much your life. And maybe a few other women, different people that kind of deal with the same thing. You find them on social media, you watch them, you're just so innocent. So you're not thinking that this person, you don't know this person. So you don't know what they're capable of or if they're, moving like that or whatever. But then they decide to make a video saying, people who copycat. All is just an example. And whole time they're really upset because they want to flip the narrative because something is happening spiritually where your spirit guides, the most high, your ancestors, they're taking back every single thing that other people were trying to steal from you. Right? It's just example. I'm sure a lot of y'all can relate. Maybe you used to be a gym rat. Maybe you used to love going to the gym, right? And you grew up liking to work out, liking to do push-ups, sit-ups. You were 7, 8, 10 years old using your father's weights, and you kind of slacked off. Bad things happen in life. You were under an attack all the time. There's no way you could do what you truly like to do and show up in a world that properly represents who you are. And so, some things shift, and now you're in that energy, and this very so-called intellectual, classy, or really uppity, proper type of person, they flip the narrative once they see you. You see the time. That's why I said I'm just using an example of the times we living in, and how this whole analytical and uh this mentally driven society that we're in right now. If you're not on top of this stuff, you can get pulled into not just being rage baited, but your vibration being lowered and you being gaslit. You can really get gaslighted by a lot of narcissistic people that use their intellect as a weapon, or that know how to anyway. To where you're like, I ain't never did that. And then even if it looks like that, or they can make it seem like that, something deeper is actually happening to where they're the ones that were really doing that to you. It's almost like a professional destiny swapper, down to where I'm even going to try to swap out the humiliation, or should I say, what's really happening, and make it seem like, you get what I'm saying? So where they're really the ones that were copying you, going to the gym, being a gym rat all these years when you were under spiritual attack. They've made all this content, being in the gym all the time and staying on top of fitness and things like that. Now that you're doing that, it looks like what they're saying is just accurate. It looks like you are the one that's copying them. You're the one that is, because they've been doing it for a while, but the whole time they were a part of maybe a spiritual group, maybe a witch coven, maybe their family members are into this type of stuff. And so they're panicking, and they're like, well, let me try to project what's really happening to me onto them, and this can be challenging just overall because of the fact that everybody is aware of spirituality, but everybody is not advanced. They're not advanced. They're not like solely dedicated to it, where it's like something that, they put the proper time into to discern through things like confusion spells, illusion spells, because this type of shit exists. And so many people walking into this type of realm, and this type of setting of things, and they're not skilled or wise enough to be able to discern what's what, and people play off of that. More reasons why I just choose to be alone, because I would be arguing with so-called friends and associates around me all the time, because sadly they don't see the truth, or they're not able to discern a lie, an illusion, from what's actually true. And then some people are just simply, sadly, delusional. And so I wanted to use that as an example, as far as the very challenging times we live in right now psychologically, because of this Aquarius influence, which rules the mind, and also humanitarianship. And so, yeah, these are just some things that I've noticed with not only being intuitive and psychic and an empath, but also, misunderstood, very misunderstood. And that's just one piece of the entire puzzle. Other things is stuff that I've already stated as well, as far as people being so invested in surveillance of you, to where you it doesn't matter which way you move, it doesn't matter what you do, they always believe without a doubt that they know what you're thinking about something, they know what you're doing, they know how something is going to turn out, they know what your intentions are. And it's like, because that's their intentions with surveillance of you, the most high God has shielded you from them not knowing shit for real. And when they see that that's not the case, even before they see that that's not the case, um then they'll have to do way more, like start doing too fucking much. They'll have to like do so much to press the lie, actually, even if they know it's a lie or not, but just this whole illusion that they know what you thinking, what you feeling, what you doing, and you might be aware of what's being projected at you, but you feeling that way truly? No, why would you feel like something that's being projected at you? You know, and that's, sadly not even defending them, but maybe that's what they be picking up on, thinking that they know what you feeling and what you no, you're aware of projections. You're aware of people watching your life and projecting energies and feelings that they want you to feel or they want you to display. And so the people that don't have no business watching everything you do so they can sabotage it or try to keep up with you, they will be picking up on the projections. Thank you, Spirit. So that's what's happening. They'll pick up on whatever people project. So again, it goes back to the small example of you watching a show, you watching something in or listening to a song and it says certain things, and you already have a strong mind. You already aware of, I have to force myself to feel and live like I would if I had privacy. You've been on board with that, you've ran with it, and you got people that don't know that because they're not in your mind. They may think that they can know by, like I said, the whole confirmation era. Everything been a confirmation when a lot of times that shit has nothing to do with you. And they never want to make the positive confirmation sit for you, but all the negative. You see the irony? But yeah, like people will project certain stuff onto you, and it's raining because this shit is sad. People will literally project what they think you're feeling because the TV said this, the commercial said this, the song said this or that, and all of the people surveillance you for the wrong fucking reasons. you know, um, they don't want to believe that, oh, this person is mentally, they don't want to believe anything positive because that's too painful to believe that it's not always gonna be this way. Things are gonna change one day. This person is not gonna be somebody I can feel comfortable surveillance in their personal life. God is just gonna make a way, however he has to make it. And so if every step of their way we can try to, make things heavy and just cling on to them and weigh them down, if we can try to do that, then so be it. And that's what I'm dealing with every day. But I just wanted to know, what do y'all think about this whole being misunderstood thing? I've been misunderstood for a while, and about everything, it seems like don't let me find nothing that I actually enjoy, that I enjoy creating, or that I enjoy entertaining myself with, or whatever. um all of my enemies that just seek to destroy me every day, they will literally project something, and I don't know if how they're doing this, like spirit is showing me something different, that I'm picking up on, like some sort of projection spell. I never even that's just coming across my mind. So, because for so long I used to think like, if I already know I'm being broad streamed all the time, but it's like I felt like whoever is doing it, people can hear whatever they say about me. And it's like they go with what that person is saying. Even if that's the case, I feel like also somebody is doing some sort of projection spell. So it's like whatever I say and feel and want people to, whatever I want people to think, damn, that's fucked up. But I'm breaking it. I'm breaking it. Once you're aware of something, it's weak. It becomes weak. It's not gonna. It doesn't have the same effect anymore. So I feel like somebody for a while had been doing like a projection ritual to where whatever I want to project onto you. So you just getting cute because why would you go out looking in a mess and you don't have to, right? You're doing it for you because you don't want to look a mess. And I'm gonna project and say that you want to entice men. You're in this slutty energy to where you want men to look at you, even though that shit don't even make sense because you're not looking for men to do shit for you. You're working on your own goals. You're working with God, the angels, your ancestors to make a way for you. But I'm gonna project this over this projection ritual, and everybody else that has eyes on you or ears on you, that's surveillance you. What I say goes. What I want people to think, whatever I project with this projection ritual, that's what it is. So, Yeah, Spirit just gave me that download with the projection ritual. Um, it's truly something else. Um, and so I'm gonna close this out by saying I think I pretty much said all of my points as far as being misunderstood. To me, that's a curse from that perspective, but it's also a blessing due to the fact that people never really truly know what I'm thinking, what I'm depending on, what I'm praying, what I'm hoping for. And so they're always left to be in that energy because they never succeed. They're never right um, about whatever they feel like I'm feeling or thinking. And so it ultimately it ultimately works out in my favor because they're wrong. But then it's a lot of work to stay on top of my mental health, dealing with it, dealing with the projections, dealing with people constantly misunderstanding you, constantly, excuse me, misjudging you, you know. And yeah, so it can be a blessing or a curse. So feel free to drop down in the comments and let me know what y'all think about this. Like I said, I was just in the shower. I know a lot of us, think a lot. That's where we can like unravel what's going on in the mind a lot of times when we're in the shower, in the water and stuff. And, I also was, telling myself it's okay about the rant that I had the other day. In one sense, people definitely deserve it because there's so many people now that want to scream Black Power. They want to scream, unity and brotherly love, sisterly love, and all of this other stuff. But we can clearly see that it's a lot of Black on Black crime, a lot of Black on Black hate, and my spirit guides were just like, obviously we know that people say stuff when they're upset. Obviously we know that everybody in the world is not attacking me. Every person that's Black is not doing spells on me or trying to cause suicide or get me arrested or homeless. We know that's not the case with every Black person, right? But at the same time, when that's usually what you notice, that's usually what puts you in a situation to even deal with, the racism in the system that we do know is still here. Yeah, you can sometimes lash out at the common factor, the common, cause of this. And last but not least, y'all, for real, last but not least of this entire lecture, while I was in there, my spirit guides were telling me, don't feel bad for evolving. Because I don't know where that energy is coming from. A lot of us that grew up in like low income, rougher neighborhoods and communities, it seems like people feel like they can make you feel guilty for changing, for growing, for evolving. Um, so this will show up in many ways. If you're intelligent and you can keep up with what I'm saying, you already get it. But people will literally try to make you feel guilty for not staying the same person. But while you were that person, they were able to use those weaknesses, those struggles, those habits against you, to say you're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. And then as you grow, this shit is literally damn if you do, damn if you don't, if you let it. As you grow, now I'm gonna, who you think you is. Why you don't, you too good to argue back. You too, yes. I don't want to be low vibrational. I don't want to, so now I'm gonna make it seem like you a scared bitch. Well, you'll find out if you put your hands on me how scared I am. You'll find out how scared I am if you actually cross that boundary with me. You'll find out. But I don't have to go on until I'm a 40 or 50 or 60-year-old Black woman like some of the Black women we see, where I sit up and I engage in drama all day. That's not feminine. That's not of me. And I don't possess that type of energy within me. And so my spirit guides were just letting me know, you don't have to feel guilty for changing. And not just changing, but wanting to change. because there's an entity that gets in people that are low vibrational enough where it'll make you feel guilty for changing for the better. And it's disgusting if you ask me. It's almost like that entity feels you getting away and leveling up because now you're not drinking anymore. Now you're not sleeping around anymore. Now you're not engaging in low vibrational activities. So now let me make you feel like you're weak. Let me make you feel like you're scary, which honestly, walking away and ignoring certain people, if you really is about that life for real, takes a lot more strength than it does to just sit there and I got too much going on to waste my time doing that. For what? Because somebody told you that that's the only way for you to be respected or for you to be able to see success. Well, that's not the case. And so anyway, that's where the being misunderstood comes into play, because people, like I said, a lot of times they're not watching because they feel like you're an enemy. I just touched on this recently on the Princess Diamond Tarot channel. Check it out. They're not just watching you and keeping eyes on you because they really feel like you're an enemy. They're doing this because they want to see what you're working on, see how much progress you've made, see if their rituals and spells are working against you so that they can ultimately sabotage you. That's literally the only reason they're doing it. And so yeah, I just want people to really think this morning. I want people to think in general, you know, are you not humble enough to be like, what I'm thinking about this person might not be the facts? In fact, who gave me the right to sit up here and watch this person's life in their privacy and then try to make it seem like whatever is going on in my weird brain about what they could be feeling and thinking is the case? You could be thinking one thing the whole time you all off. Like this person is thinking about their children. This person is being guided and told by other spirits to check in with their vibration and make sure it's high and make sure that they're thinking all the positive things that they can. So yeah, honestly, I close this out by just saying, yeah, it can be a blessing and a curse. Um, Shout out to the people that are constantly trying to evolve, that are obviously you do want to keep an eye on your enemies or possible enemies here and there, but we're not going to just sit up and just watch and indulge in that all day long, every day. You understand what I'm saying? You have to do things with intention. Okay, and that's what I've been doing lately. And I truly do live in a way where I don't care what people think because I'm always focused on my evolution. And I realize that we do live in a society where people feed off more negativity than they do positivity. So, of course, you being an authentic person, being confident and not really tripping over too much flaws, um, people will perceive that as well as people will perceive that negatively as well as they will perceive you being humble in a negative way. So you can be the most humble person in the world, and you know how some people will perceive that because their mind is filthy. They'll perceive it as though you're insecure. Oh, this person is insecure because they're humble to the fact that their hair could be better right now, naturally and just done protective styles or whatever. So now instead of me looking at it like, oh, this person is humble, and they realize that somebody has a better weave out there than them, somebody has a better wig than them, somebody's braids are more newer than theirs, and they're humble about it. I'm gonna turn that somehow. Oh, they're insecure and have low self-esteem. So let me play at that again, being misunderstood. So light and love, you guys. I send well wishes and I send hope and faith to people that are dealing with this. It's not easy, especially like I said, when you're a spiritual person, when you're intuitive, you have these type of gifts and you're an empath and you can feel like a lot energetically that's not just being projected at you, but that, people are also thinking and perceiving, and that's not the case. Stay strong, pray for strength, and just try your best to stay as high vibrational as possible. Stay on top of that. Don't let it build and build and build. The minute that you notice something kind of shifts your energy from being happy and full of hope and life and faith, the minute that you see that your energy shifts, get it back. Just keep getting it back to where it needs to be. And like I said, ultimately it might not be a big, a massive amount, but You'll start to see people or situations that used to come at you heavy, um, more less will because it's not, it's not an effective way to get you out of your character, to lower your vibration and things like that. So until I come back with the moon readings, maybe later today or tomorrow, you guys, like I said, just try to stay as high vibrational as possible.